Grace and peace to you, and thank you for watching this video series on the Catechism in the Book of Common Prayer. We are on page 846, continuing the section called God the Father. And it's really a follow-up from last time. The question was, what do we learn about God as creator from the revelation to Israel? And the answer is we learn that there is one God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, of all that is seen and unseen. And then the question for this time, what does this mean? There's a bit of a further reflection on God as creator. And the answer is, this means that the universe is good, that it is the work of a single loving God who creates, sustains, and directs it. And so this image of God as Father and Creator continues the theme in the Catechism of placing us as creatures within an intentionally designed and nurtured system of physical experience that God has custom built for us. And the way that God does that is beyond our direct understanding, other than it is God who does it. The means are secondary to the source and the energy and the intention behind the creation. And found a very helpful section in a book talking about our role as humans, as stewards within the creation. And the Catechism will talk about this in a bit more detail, but I want to introduce these principles as a way to kind of ground the next 3 or 4 weeks in this section, because the connection is, if God is Father and Creator, then we are offspring and creatures. And what does it mean to be a creature put on the earth for the purpose of stewarding it as we steward each other in love and service to one another, so that we have a responsibility and a call toward the earth that comes from God's identity and gift in God's being and to us as having made us. And the source is a man named Calvin DeWitt, and he says that there are 4 fundamental ecological principles that can readily be discerned within the biblical narratives, reflecting the Christian doctrine of creation. And number 1 is the earth-keeping principle. Just as a creator keeps and sustains humanity, so humanity must keep and sustain the creator's creation. And the second is the Sabbath principle. The creation must be allowed to recover from human use of its resources. And the third one is the fruitfulness principle. The fecundity of the creation is to be enjoyed and not destroyed. The fulfillment and limits principle. There are limits set to humanity's role within creation, with boundaries set in place which must be respected. And so what he's helpfully breaking down here is the way in which we are stewards of the earth. And as stewards, it does not belong to us. We cannot, by our own power, do what God has done in creating and renewing the earth, because that only is within the realm of God. And so our role is important in the overall care of God's creation. So go back to the beginning here. The earth-keeping principle just as the Creator keeps and sustains humanity, so humanity must keep and sustain the Creator's creation. Part of what is coming into greater and greater awareness as we see evidence of climate change and the lessening and decrease of various resources is the urgency of this kind of care, so that every Christian is in some way an environmentalist, so far as the word environmentalist means that we have a duty of responsibility to do what we can to preserve natural resources and not to abuse, exploit, or waste what God has made. And so this can be done in various ways with the products that we purchase and consume, with cars that we drive, with ways that we use the natural resources all around us. It's important that we not take our responsibility as yet one more way of pointing our finger in blame and anger at those who we think are doing destructive and harmful things, but to take this as a call of our own personal and to a certain extent corporate within families and church communities responsibility to do what is within our power. Anytime that we approach the use of God's creation, one of the important spiritual, ethical, moral questions is, can this be done in a way that minimizes waste and the exploitation of non-renewable resources in the world, such that things are recycled or are used with reusable kinds of materials, or in some way mindful of our spiritual responsibility to care for all of the creation. And it's a helpful notion in the Christian life to remember that spirituality is not kept separate and apart from the realm of our everyday, ordinary, material lives. That how we interact with, use, and sometimes misuse the natural resources around us, the products that we interact with every day, is a reflection of our spiritual commitment. Those things and our use of them is a part of how we worship, how we live out our vocation as creatures, and how we then steward the creation. And so to advocate for and practice individually within our larger social connections, and in the bigger themes of climate change and the way in which the wider culture and world uses resources, are all places for us to be attentive, to gain information, to be mindful of simple changes that we can make, and then to see ourselves not as those who are entitled to do whatever we choose with whatever we want to buy, but that those decisions are reflective of being parts of this living organism of the earth which God has made. And so we are most fully human when we are most deeply attending to how caring for things and the environment and the land and waters and air are also caring for our neighbor, and helping to preserve life for us and for those generations who will come after us. And so in the coming weeks, we'll continue to explore some of these themes around God as creator and ourselves as creation. Thank you for watching the video. God bless you.